To the curious, the seekers, and also to the experts, welcome. You're listening to Poli-Psych podcast. Today we are considering the question, can people raised in front of television screens find meaningful relationships? With me to consider that question is Ken. Welcome, Ken.
INTJ checking in.
And Don. Hello, Don.
Hello, I am also an INTJ and I am Enneagram 5.
We will begin by playing a brief clip and commenting.
Dawson was hell about this.
Oh, hell, Diana, I knew it was over with us weeks ago.
Will you go back to your wife?
I'll give it a try, but I don't think she'll jump at it. But don't worry about me. I'll manage. I always have. I always will. I'm more concerned about you. You're not the boozer type. So I figure a year, maybe 2, before you crack up or jump out of your 14th floor office window.
Stop selling, Max. I don't need you. I don't want your pain. I don't want your menopausal decay and death. I don't need you, Max. Now get out of
me. You need me badly, because I'm your last contact with human reality. I love you. And that painful, decaying love is the only thing between you and the shrieking nothingness you live the rest of the day.
Then don't leave me.
It's too late, Diana. There's nothing left in you that I can live with. You're one of Howard's humanoids. And if I stay with you, I'll be destroyed. Like Howard Beale was destroyed. Like Lorraine Hobbs was destroyed. Like everything that you and the institution of television touch is destroyed. You're television incarnate, Diana. Indifferent to suffering. Insensitive to joy. All of life is reduced to the common rubble of banality. War, murder, death. All the same to you as bottles of beer. And the daily business of life is a corrupt comedy. You even shatter the sensations of time and space into split seconds and instant replays. You're madness, Diana. Virulent madness. And everything you touch dies with you. But not me. Not as long as I can feel pleasure and pain and love. And it's a happy ending. Wayward husband comes to his senses. Returns to his wife, with whom he's established a long and sustaining love. Heartless young woman, left alone in her Arctic desolation. Music up with a swell. Final commercial. And here are a few scenes from next week.
There we have it. I find this characterization of Diana really interesting in the sense that she kind of represents the baby boomer generation, which now the baby boomer generation is the generation that's, kind of reaching its twilight years, and those who come after the baby boomer generation I think what Max said to Diana is even more true of them, that there's even less reality that people who are obsessed with video games are living in. So this is really something to think about.
Yeah, as far as the continuing on with what I was saying in the last clip, what I really see here is the Enneagram 4 cry for authenticity as the only real way to live. And if you could say that's what this scene is about, I think that would be it. It's like you have to live reality, who you are. You can't be a cog in a wheel. You can't be, one of Howard's mechanistic parts, as he puts it. You have to be real. You have to live your life and the cry of authenticity is very, very deep with Enneagram 4s. And I think it's a very important message for all of mankind, that we need to find out who we are, what God created us to be, and live that. Don't live other people's expectations. Don't live the programming of society, but live your life and don't sell out. And that's it in a nutshell.
The illustration, this is a very good example of, in MBTI, the introverted feeling function, the deeper version of values that isn't always expressed overtly in social situations, but is usually there with a special someone, with with that sort of focused attention on one person or one relationship. And that does kind of go with the life of Patty. He was married to the same person lifelong and recognized as a stable relationship, and that core is sort of running underneath the "I don't need you," which I think that character voices that several times. And that's sort of I see that as an outgrowth of the globalist picture presented in the Jensen scene, where the first thing mentioned was all necessities provided, which really sort of makes relationships more for entertainment. They're not as essential to the human condition as they once were. The bond of the dyad, the married dyad, is obviously under stress these days. It's even more so than in that time. It was just beginning at that point where you see this relationship dynamic portrayed in this scene. And that's probably been one of several of the most damaging, unpredicted results of this sort of corporate globalism. All necessities provided, debt financing. We basically have a ballooning federal debt that is essentially just a Visa MasterCard with no credit limit, and the false prosperity that we've gotten is almost like welfare for the culture to kind of become unmoored from the actual bonding process being essential or even necessary for the business of life.
Not to seem paranoid, I hope, but I'm not so sure that this was unintentional. I have heard a gentleman from England, I think his name is Alan Watt, reminisce about when people first began to get televisions in the UK. And he said that he remembered that every Sunday, people would go, there was a park where thousands of people would go and meet and interact with one another. And when television was introduced where he lived, the government gave people televisions. So everybody got a television pretty much at the same time. And I think he said it took, I forget if it was 2 weeks or 2 months for the people to stop meeting in the park. And it was just that sense of community and that contact, that interpersonal contact and that support system was gone in a very, very short period of time after they were given television sets by the government.
Fahrenheit 451, I think it's a now recognized as a vintage film, but I think that's one of the themes. But thanks for putting the MBTI back up. Just briefly, television sort of in conception that I've been working on is it pushes people into the bottom part of that diagram, the sensing, feeling function, and the thinking function. Actually, it was portrayed in the scene with the globalist character, recognized Arthur Jensen, played by Ned Beatty, where he actually does overtly say that the business is governed by the immutable laws of accounting, and that's kind of a thinking function, and it's sort of the hidden subtext behind the feeling function. And it's almost an example of how I've seen this occur in many cases where thinkers can kind of work their way around feelers pretty easily by playing that subtextual strategic game that's kind of out of reach by diverting it through the feeling function. And I think media is really kind of doing that they're kind of capturing the top part of the chain. The intuition and thinking is kind of co-opted by the producers or by the medium. And if people don't remain very conscious of the process, they do kind of get pushed into that sensing, feeling, that comfortable, here's the data, here's the sense data, and here's how I feel about it, and just kind of moving into that and giving up those top two higher human functioning characteristics of intuition and thinking.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting in that diagram how the N and the T are on top and the S and the F are on bottom. It kind of symbolizes a potential stratification of society between those that have the control mechanisms, which are kind of less emotive, and for instance, the law and finance. And then the sensors and feelers are in the realm of sharing cat videos.
Well, here we have two INTJs. We're able to kind of decode this, not because we're superior intellectually, but because we don't find this analysis as ponderous as most people would. So Don and I are both INTJs, and we just have a genuine interest in this sort of work. So, but we're kind of defectors.
Yeah, and all that. I mean, yeah, we would tend to think that means that the feelers are less valuable, but on the contrary, they actually lend value to the life. There isn't any real life unless you are experiencing it in the feeling realm too. So we need all of this, but we need to be aware of how we can be partitioned and compartmentalized so that we don't have that full range. And when we lose our range, we lose our humanness. And those that would control us, they do get power out of dividing us up and compartmentalizing us.
To the curious, the seekers, and also to the experts, thank you for joining us. Please remember to click like if you have indeed liked this program. Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. And until next time, take care.